this morning, James starts chapter 2 already with a very prevalent problem in our society today, favoritism. Okay, when we talk about favoritism, we talk about a lot of other things: discrimination, partiality, ano pa, prejudice, racism. So these are all part of favoritism. And many of us here, we may not want to admit it, or we may not even know it, but we all struggle somehow with this issue on favoritism. James 2:1 says, "My brothers, as believers in our glorious Lord Jesus Christ, don't show favoritism." So, evidently, favoritism or discrimination was an evident problem during the time of James. And till today, it's still an evident problem. It's still very prevalent. So, what did James mean when he said favoritism? Okay, in one version of the Bible, the New English Bible version, it's referred to as snobbery. So in other words, what James is saying here is don't be a snob. Don't be a snob. Okay. A snob is someone who looks down at people and thinks of herself more highly than others. So that's not good when you think of that, right? I read somewhere that the only time we should look down at others is when we're helping them get up. Okay. But other than that, we should never look down at others. We should not be a snob. The Greek word for favoritism is a compounded word that means to receive and to face. So it literally means, ladies, to receive someone at face value. So you don't really know what's inside the person. All you see is the outside, and you base the value of that person on what you see, on how she dresses up, how she talks, how she looks, her actions, okay? And James is saying we should not do that. That should not be the attitude of our heart. We should never value people based on their superficial appearance, on superficial judgment. That's discrimination, that's favoritism. And with that definition, ladies, are we guilty of that? Are we guilty of actually discriminating or showing favoritism? Because I don't know with you guys, but I am. When I was looking at this, I'm like, yes, I am guilty in many ways of showing discrimination. So, what are common areas of discrimination or favoritism? Number one area is appearance. I think this is one of the most common areas of discrimination. We discriminate based on how people look. Okay? Beauty has become what everything in this world. I mean, face it, if you're a cute kid, you get away with murder, right? But the sad thing is, if you're not a cute kid, tough luck, di ba? You kind of like have to move your way into making pa cute to get away with murder. So, um, that's just the reality of life. We judge people based on the outside, on what we see, how they look, how they dress up. And I'm so guilty of this that it's embarrassing to even admit. Why? Because it's so easy to be with friends and then to laugh at people that, that don't dress up well or don't talk well. And it's sad how society has been like that, how I can be like that. We can be so judgmental and we can be so discriminatory in that area. We value people based on what? On what we see on the outside with little or no concern on what's in the inside. Parang dun pa lang makita mo lang parang you already automatically value her na ay importante tong taong to. Ay hindi importante tong tao to. Just by the look. Just by the look of that person, regardless of what's on the inside. No wonder people go to great lengths. Okay? People go to great lengths to fix the outside. Face, body. We go to great lengths. Why? Because we know that what we are on the outside has value to people. And we want people to put value on us. Okay, we've become a society so focused on the outside, on superficial outside appearances, that we actually have a tendency, okay, to base our own value on what we are on the outside. And how do I know this? Well, because I was once like that. As all of you can see, I am on the voluptuous, okay, I am on the kind of, sige na, fat side. Nasa overweight side ako, okay? But you know what I put here in my notes? voluptuous curvy side. So okay, I am on
Chubby
that
lang.
side.
Chubby lang.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm on that side. Okay, and I used to feel, to be honest, I used to feel really crappy about my weight for the longest time. Like I would feel like, oh, I'm so ugly, and then you kind of feel bad and you can't wear the same clothes that other people can wear. So I went through that struggle and I felt really crappy about myself. How are we in this area? Are you guilty of giving more attention, more time to others who look pretty, nice, who have a good appearance, fashionable, well dressed? Parang, do you gravitate more to people like that? And what about those that are in your mind, baduy, things like that, who don't dress up well, who don't talk like how you would want them to talk? Do you still give them, um, the same amount of attention, or, yeah, or
Okay.
treatment?
So
All right, I
there,
see some hands already. So sige, I'm gonna entertain some hands here. Susanna.
I just wanted to make an addition because what you said is so important. And we're going to talk about favoritism. I think it really stems from like what you're saying here. I know that we're all guilty because we use our eyes, right? And where you're using like what the world has taught us, that is like, if someone is missing a leg or someone has special needs, that they're less than, that they might not be able to be capable of doing something. So we discriminate in that way too. We take away from their abilities. And but one thing that always reminded me, like even when you say that you're more on the voluptuous side, and you said yes, God made you beautiful, because it says that he made I am fearfully and wonderfully made. And we're just guilty of discriminating of anything that's just not like us, I feel like.
Right, that's
So
true.
this is a hard one.
Yeah. That's number
thank
one.
you.
Okay.
Yeah,
Number
I
one
think
way that we discriminate is appearance. Number two is race. That's true. If this is so prevalent, if you watch the news now in the US, it's everywhere. Race. I think they're having protests now on the Black Lives Matter, or Stop Asian hate or something like that. So it's terrible. And it's sad that when you watch these, you realize what has happened to this world. Parang there's so much hatred going on. Racism isn't just prevalent in the US or in other countries. As you can see, it's prevalent here. Filipinos can really say mean remarks. Okay. There was this girl. She is Nova Stevens. She's Miss Canada 2021 in the recent Miss Universe um, pageant. Okay. And she called out, and a lot of Filipinos were making very racist remarks. You would unbelievable. When I read this, I'm like, this is so embarrassing. Okay. So she put this in her Twitter, and some of them called her these things. With Filipinos, we think they're funny, but it's painful for a person to hear that. One writer even said this. Said it's so bizarre that these racist comments are coming from Filipinos who are actually targeted for their brown skin, flat nose, and weird accents. In history, Filipinos were likened to uncivilized apes. And today, many of them are subjected to utter cruelty, being kicked while walking on the sidewalk in New York, being shooed away in restaurants, being bullied in public trains, and yet Filipinos can be the first ones to say the most racist and painful comments. So ladies, we need to catch our hearts. Okay, sabi nga nila, di ba, ang mga Pilipino, us Filipinos, we can make light out of the most hard circumstances in life. So we have grown to say jokes and just laugh things off. But these things, we need to be careful that our jokes are not at the expense of other people, especially our jokes cannot lean to being racists. But as Christians, we need to make an intentional effort, ladies, to be very sensitive and conscious of our remarks towards people that are what? Different
you.
from
And I
us.
do think that a lot of it has to do with our own stereotyping people. And I think the things that we say are also projections of our own insecurities or the way we view it. I am guilty of stereotyping and labeling people,
Yeah.
just like I think everyone else here. We're all humans, and we usually judge people based on what we value.
I totally agree, Belle. What your convictions are and your standards are in others is the standards that you put on yourself as well. All right, thank you so much. Let's move on. All right, so the third is achievement. All right, our society hates losers. We know that. Okay, we love winners. We love popular people. We love what prominent people. We love people who are smart, who are good in their field. The more successful you are in your field, the more VIP treatment you get. The more people look up to you, the more people respect you. Okay, it's all about success. But if you're a loser, if you have nothing to show, it's very easy for people to devalue you based on what you've achieved or not achieved in life. Okay, and then the fourth is wealth. Wealth. And this is by far the most common discrimination in our society and during the times of Jane. Money. We judge people based on their wealth. If you're rich, you get VIP treatment. That's how it goes. And it's actually acceptable in a gathering when someone comes in, VIP siya, mayaman siya, you know that he is of good influence, good, yeah, good standing socially, then he gets VIP treatment. People gravitate towards people that are rich. But if you're not rich, you're just an ordinary employee, probably in the eyes of many, you don't get all these perks. So that's the question. Do you treat people the same depending on their economic status in life?
Regarding wealth, actually, ako yung na-discriminate regarding wealth sa grocery. Kasi one time, I went there wearing pambahay. So nobody wanted to help me with my heavy push cart. And when I do groceries, I usually buy for 2 weeks for 10 people. So madami siya. So the next time I went, I wore a long dress. I put on some jewelry. Habala, dalawa silang nag-help sa akin, pati yung guard.
Yeah.
So anyway, iba talaga.
Yeah. Yeah. People, it's funny, no? Just buy a dress, but just buy what you wear. It makes the whole experience very different. Yes,
Yes.
Susanna.
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah, just want to share. The other day in the drugstore, I was buying something, and may nakasabay ako na, he was dressed very pretty. He was a poor guy. Um, he was trying to buy something for his eyes, pero parang hindi nila maintindihan. So nakukulitan na sa kanya. And whereas there was somebody in the senior lane who was mas makulit pa sa kanya, pero fully attentive sila. So I just had to step up and kind of tell them what the guy was showing them, or what the guy was trying to describe. Parang they did not give him the full attention,
Right.
like the ones that they were giving somebody from the senior lane who had her pearls and everything else, no. And despite na sa dami-dami nung reklamo na binibigay nung woman. But me also, my first-hand experience, what the way you talk. If you talk na may patwang-twang, people listen to you more, or either they get intimidated right away and they assist you para you can go up, para they can get rid of you right away. Or pag nagdire-diretso ka na Tagalog, parang they think of you as as the masses or something like that. You get what I mean? If I want something, for example, delivered fast online, for example, delivery, magpapatuwang-tuwang ako para mabilis dumating. That's true.
Okay.
Yun lang.
Those are the realities of life. It's funny, but it's true. Okay, yeah. People really give more importance to those that have money, that are rich. Okay, wealth is the area James picks on the most, right? In fact, he makes an illustration, and I'm sure all of you can kind of like relate to this illustration. James 2 to 4 says this: suppose a man comes to your meeting wearing gold rings and fine clothes, and a poor man in shabby clothes also comes in. Okay? And if you show special attention to the man wearing fine clothes and say, here's a good seat for you, but say to the poor man, you stand over there or sit on the floor at my feet, have you not discriminated among yourselves and become judges with evil? So that's exactly what Christine was saying. So this is the illustration, ladies. Just imagine two people, probably maybe this is a church setting. Okay, two women come in church, and the other one woman comes in, dressed well, with jewelry, a nice bag, while the other woman comes what in slippers and obviously is poor, shabby clothes. The usher, what standing at the door, takes that rich person, that rich woman, to her seat, gives her a very nice seat close to the pulpit, while the poor woman is told there are no more seats left, or you can sit on the floor. You can probably go to the second floor and find your own seat, or some. Basta they're given very different treatment. Okay, VIP treatment versus no treatment at all. And James is saying this shouldn't be your attitude. Should never be your attitude. As Christians, there is no place in our hearts that should ever entertain favoritism or discrimination. Now, you may ask, what is so wrong about favoritism? Why is James so adamantly rejecting such an attitude? Well, James gives us three problems with favoritism. The first problem is favoritism is not Christ like. James 2:1 says, my brothers, as believers in our glorious Lord Jesus Christ, don't show favoritism. So, as believers of Jesus Christ, we must what? Exemplify Christ likeness. That must be our goal in life, diba? That we live like Christ here on earth. The examples that he has shown us while he was living here on earth, we must exemplify that in our lives. But you see, when Jesus lived here on earth, nowhere did he show nowhere did he show favoritism. Jesus never played favorites. In fact, neither does God play favorites. It says in Romans 2:11, God does not show favoritism. Very clear. Okay? Jesus never showed favoritism while he was living here on earth, and neither does God the Father show favoritism. If you read all the Gospels, the entire Gospels, where you see the life of Jesus, Jesus treated everyone fairly, the rich, the poor, the outcast, the sinners, women, men, they were all the same to him. All the same. Okay. He treated everyone with dignity and he treated everyone with respect. He took the time to stoop down. Remember that poor beggar the poor beggars or the lepers who wanted to be healed. He would take the time to stop, stoop down to them. He also took the time to go to what? Um, where's that place where Zacchaeus lived? Zacchaeus is a rich man, right? And so he took the time also to reach out to Zacchaeus. So what I'm trying to say is, for Jesus, there was no difference between poor or rich, sick or intact or whatever. He treated everyone fairly, no preferential treatment whatsoever. For many of us, di pa nga natin kilala yung tao, we don't want to even get close to them, right? Why? We don't want to even go with people that we feel are different from us because of what? Our prejudgment or our biases towards them. We know what we want, and because they don't fit our standards of what is cool, what is good, what is acceptable, we don't even want to go with them or be known to be with them. Who would have thought that biblical rin pala tong don't judge a book by its cover? We always hear that. So technically, that's exactly what James is saying here. Do not judge people based on what you see on the outside, okay, or what we perceive them to be. Number two, favoritism comes from evil motives. James 2:4 says, have you not discriminated among yourselves and become judges with evil thoughts? Okay, in the NLT version, it says, doesn't this discrimination show that your judgments are guided by evil motives? All right. So James is saying when we judge people or when we discriminate people, we do it out of what? Evil motives. Okay. We do it out of pride and greed. People who discriminate or people who suck up, who love making sip sip, they do it out of um, a spirit of greed. Like, I'm gonna suck up because I want to know what I can get out of this person. I want to be barkada of this person kasi sikat siya eh. And when I'm with that person, sikat rin ako eh. I mean, there's always something to get. It's not always monetary. I'm sure not everyone gets monetary, but there's something that we can get out of people. And that's what it means when you play favorites because of pride and greed. Number three, favoritism is senseless. Senseless. James 2:5 says, he is Has not God chosen those who are poor in the eyes of the world to be rich in faith and to inherit the kingdom he promised those who love him? Okay, so just so we're clear, James isn't saying here that the only ones that will go to heaven are the poor. All right. Neither is he saying here that the poor are good, but the rich are evil. So that is not the context of this verse. What James Lang is saying here is that the poor are as important to God as the rich. That the kingdom of God is for both rich and poor. It's just not for the rich. And we love to play favorites on the rich, but no, even the poor get an equal chance at heaven. Knowing that, ladies, aren't you happy that God doesn't base our salvation on how much money we have in the bank? Because if that were the case, I would have no chance, very little chance of going to heaven. Our net worth, and this is just a reminder for everyone, your net worth has nothing to do with your self worth. Remember that. Okay, your true value has nothing to do with your valuables, with the things that you have or what you have. Okay, don't confuse your net worth with your self worth, right? In fact, your net worth, yeah, and this is true, your net worth has nothing to do with your self worth. I want to share. I had a very cheap watch for the longest time. Okay, it was so cheap na it was a leather watch. Tumatastas na, nagtatastas na. And Ed would always tell me, Shars, you know what? Throw that watch away. Why don't you wear the watch that your mom gave you, which is a far, yeah, of higher value, more expensive than that watch. And that watch, hindi ko talaga siya natapon for the longest time until it conked out. Nasira siya. I love that watch so much. And I didn't care whether I would see sometimes people would look at my watch and I knew the back of their minds, ang baduy naman ito. Okay. And so I didn't really care. I didn't really care what people thought about my watches because apparently, for those who don't know, some people are really tied to their watches. They give really special attention to your watch. I read somewhere that you can tell. There's like this it was some a write up. You can tell a lot about a person based on the watch that she wears or he wears. And you know what? When I read that, I was like, oh my, what did my small dingy watch say about me? I mean, if that were true, what did my Sira Siroa watch, inexpensive watch, say about me? But did I really care? No, ladies, I didn't. I did not care at all. Why? Because I know for certain, without a doubt, that my true value has nothing to do with my watch. Okay, but some people, for them, their watches are everything, and it says it makes them feel more special when they've got a really nice watch. And I have nothing against that, but sabi ni James dito, your true worth is has nothing to do with your valuables, or your self-worth has nothing to do with your net worth, right? Some people put so much importance to that watch. My watch was just a tool for me to find out the time, and it did its purpose well for 5 good years. But I never tied my self-worth with my valuables or with that watch. And I praise God that he never tied my self-worth with that watch, because that watch was dingy and was really, really baduy. Okay. But sadly, many of us ladies, we put our identity on our valuables, on the things that we have. Okay. And that's absurd. It really is absurd. In fact, that's what James also feels when he says in James 2:6-7, he says, is it not the rich who are exploiting you? Are you not the ones who are dragging, are they not the ones who are dragging you into court? Are they not the ones who are blaspheming the noble name of him to whom you belong? Right? So James is saying, you know, why are you so worried in impressing these rich people when they don't even care about you? In fact, they want to kill you. They want to persecute you. It's, because during the time of James, it was these Roman rich people who were the ones persecuting the Christians. They were the ones killing the Christians or having the Christians fed by the lions. It was them. So James is saying here, bakit gusto niyong mag-impress mga mayayaman, sila ngayon nagpapatay sa inyo. Sila ngayon, I mean, they're the ones that are dragging you into court and all that, and yet you want to impress them so much. And ladies, this rings true for many of us today, right? Sabi nga nila, we dress up to impress people we don't even like. We just want to impress, and it's absurd. Um, yeah, that's another word for senseless. Absurd. It really is. If you wanted to actually favor anyone, favor the poor. See, Matthew 25:36 to 37 and 40 says, when I was hungry, you gave me something to eat. And this is Jesus talking, ladies. Huh? He said, when I was hungry, you gave me something to eat. When I was thirsty, you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, you invited me in. Naked, you clothed me. I was sick, you visited me. I was in prison, and you came to me. Then he goes on in verse 40, truly I say to you, to the extent that you did any of these to the least of my brothers, you did it to me. So ladies, if at all meron kayong if a favor in life, if you will even favor anyone in life, Jesus saying, you know what? Give more attention to the poor, to the needy, to the strangers, to those that are naked, who need clothing. You know, they're the ones you give more attention to. When you do this to the least of of your brothers, you're doing it to me. You're actually doing it to me. So if there's anyone Jesus would want us to give more attention to, it is the poor. Number four, favoritism is unloving. Okay, James 2:8 says, if you really keep the royal law found in scripture, love your neighbor as yourself, you are doing right. Okay, why is it called the royal law? Well, because if we just obeyed, okay, this law to love your neighbor as yourself, ladies, then we wouldn't have a problem with favoritism. So if you would just love others as much as you love yourself, if you would just treat others the way you want them to treat you, then this wouldn't be an issue. Favoritism would never be an issue. But favoritism is an issue. Why? Because we don't love others the way we love ourselves. And we don't treat others the way we want to be treated. That's the sad part. First John 4:20 says, if a man says he loves God and he hates his brother, he is lying. Okay? How can you love God whom you haven't seen if you don't love your brother whom you have seen? Okay? It's easy, ladies, to claim you love God. It's easy for all of us. I think all of us can say, yes, I love God. But if you truly love God, you will love a certain kind of way. You will love you will love the way that he loves you. You will give off the same unconditional, impartial love that God gives you, that Jesus gives you over and over again every day. That's the kind of love that will flow out of you if you truly love God. How can you say you love God and yet your love is so conditional? It's so discriminatory. It's so critical. It's so demanding of your standards. Because I know a lot of Christians, they're so demanding of their standards. They will only associate with people who for them are acceptable in their eyes. And they call themselves Christians. And they know everything about love and compassion. They know all about that. But when it comes to the real life, they're very, very critical of others. Now tell me, ladies, is that the kind of love that Jesus has given you? If you are a true Christian and you truly admit that you love God, that is the kind of love God gives you, which is unconditional. That's the kind of love you must emit. All right. And then the fifth, favoritism is a sin. Okay. But it says here in James 2:9 to 10, if you show favoritism, you sin and are convicted by the law as lawbreakers. For whoever keeps the whole law and yet stumbles at just one point is guilty of breaking what? All of it. So here's the problem. The reason why many of us, we show favoritism so easily towards the rich, the popular, the successful, the beautiful, and we do it so casually. Why? Why is that so? Because we don't realize that this sin of this attitude of favoritism is actually a sin. Okay, put that in your minds, ladies. Favoritism is a sin. Discrimination is a sin. Racism is a sin. A lot of us think it's just a social problem. We look at it as, oh, it's something frowned upon. But no, it's graver than that. Okay, it's a sin. And what did James say when he said, um, "You are a lawbreaker"? When you show favoritism, you are a lawbreaker. And then he goes on and says, "For whoever keeps the whole law and yet stumbles at just one point is guilty of breaking it all." This is what he's saying. Hmm. Uh, if you think you followed all the commandments of the Bible, so we have a lot of commandments in the Bible, okay? If you think you followed all the commandments of the Bible, but yet you cannot seem to follow this one commandment, to not show favoritism, to not be guilty of discrimination, then James is saying you are guilty of breaking all the other commandments. All right? Because for some of us, we think, oh, maliit lang naman tong sin na to. Okay lang naman siguro. No, but James is saying you're guilty of all the other commandments. And what are these commandments? Well, we have commandments like do not murder. We have commandments like do not steal. All right? This is the law. This is they're part of the 10 commandments. And when the Bible talks about the law, it's actually talking about the 10 commandments. And so James actually pits favoritism with these commandments like murder and stealing. Okay, and so for some of you, you might think, what? If I show favoritism, it's like I murdered someone, or is it like I'm stealing? Well, yeah, that's what this verse is saying. If you're a lawbreaker, okay, if you do one commandment, or you're guilty of one commandment, you're guilty of all. You see, ladies, to be a lawbreaker doesn't mean you have to break two, three, four laws to be a lawbreaker. No, you just break one law and you're a lawbreaker. In the same way, if you don't have to steal two, three, four times to be a criminal. Isang beses ka lang magnakaw sa grocery, criminal ka na. Right? Isang beses ka lang magpatay ng tao, murderer ka na. So same thing. You break one law, you're a lawbreaker. And God says, in my standards, this is God's standards, not mine. Okay. In my standards, you break one law, it's like you're breaking the whole 10 commandments. That's how high God's standard is when it comes to sin. All right. So ladies, don't ever think na, maliit lang naman tong sin of favoritism. Everyone naman is doing it. Okay lang naman if mas binibigyan ko ng more importance si Mr. So and so kaysa kay Mr. So and so. It's okay. Ladies, no, you are actually sinning. It is not something to um to accept as norm. It's not normal. For the world, yes, but as Christians, we should not. We should be set apart. It should not be normal for us. In fact, some of us may actually be recipients of favoritism. For those that are wealthy in this group, and I'm sure there are, little do you know, but you actually expect some sort of VIP treatment when you get in events. And when people don't give you the kind of treatment you want them to give you, ano, nagdadadabog ka sa loob mo, inis ka, asar ka, why? Right? So we shouldn't even entertain such thoughts or such attitude of the heart. And why is it, you may ask, why is God so unfair that he would equate favoritism, this super small sin, to murder or to, let's say, stealing? Well, because in the eyes of God, ladies, sin is sin. In fact, when you look at it, even with sin, God plays no favorites. Okay, he plays no favorites with sin. He doesn't discriminate sin as big or small or minor or major. No, for him, sin is sin. Okay, and they're equally offensive to God. James 2:12 says, "Speak and act as those who are going to be judged by the law that gives freedom, because judgment without mercy will not be shown to anyone who has been merciful." Okay, mercy triumphs over judgment. All right, so James now deals with the issue of showing no favoritism when it comes to sin. Okay, how do we deal with people who are obviously sinning and we want nothing to do with them? This is very, very common with Christians. How do we deal with people that are living a sinful lifestyle, and we want to kind of like get away from them because we don't want to be associated with people who are loose or people who are sinning? Is that okay? is that a license to be judgmental towards them? Because I just want you to know, James is not encouraging, okay, when he says do not play favorites, James is not encouraging that we condone sinfulness or we overlook sinfulness. If a fellow brother or sister is sinning against us, okay, or is living us, or is offending us, then what we must do is we must fix the issue in the spirit of love. And James reminds us in this verse that mercy, if you look at that last sentence, mercy triumphs over judgment. What does this mean? James is saying, don't be too quick to bring judgment over people that sin against you. Kasi tayo, pag may makasakit lang sa atin, ang bilis natin gustong manggante. Right? We always want, I'm going to teach that person a lesson. Or we always look for justice. We always want justice. We always want to get back. And we think it's okay. Paano nga naman matututo yung tao kung hindi natin, we don't teach that person a lesson, di ba? I mean, our thoughts. And so we always want justice. But God is saying, bago nyo unahin ang justice, unahin nyo muna ang mercy. Okay, unahin nyo muna. Seek to forgive. Seek to understand. Seek to what? To extend compassion. Pag may makasakit sa inyo, imbis na agad-agad gusto nyo ng mambawi or magalit, seek first to give compassion or to understand what that person is going through. Baka naman may pinagdadaanan. You know, di ba we always say that? And James is saying, we need to seek that first. You know, when you look at our lives here, and you see every day how we offend God and we sin against God over and over and over again. Every day, ladies. Okay? Isn't it so heartwarming to know that God always puts mercy first over judgment towards us? If me as a sinner, if I always got judgment first over mercy, then siguro lampang-lampa na ako. Like I would literally be like Job, like literally on the floor, bruised and battered, okay, and punished because of all my sin. Why? Because that's justice. I deserve that. I'm a sinner and I deserve, and literally, if I were to get justice, I deserve hell. I would have no chance at heaven whatsoever. But you know what? God always what? His mercy always triumphs over judgment. His mercy always triumphs over justice. And this is exactly the attitude of the heart when this is the attitude that he wants us to give others when others sin against us. Judgment without mercy will not be shown to anyone who has been merciful. So, in other words, if you want the Lord to continuously show mercy upon you, ladies, James is saying you need to be willing to give out mercy to others. Matthew 5:7, blessed are the merciful, for they will be what? Shown mercy. So, ladies, think of it. Who is one person today that I have not been showing mercy to, that I've been so hard on, that all I do is judge them? Kulang na lang ipako nyo na sa krus yung taong yun. You know, kung may tornilyo lang kayo at may hammer, pinako nyo na ng 10 beses. Well, God is saying, you know what? Show first mercy. Unahin yung mercy. Be eager to extend mercy. Yes,
Hi, morning. It just struck me when you said that favoritism is a sin. When we do favoritism, we're actually letting our pride get in the way. We're letting our sense of our standards, right? And it boils down to pride, boils down to ego. We have to learn how to be humble so that we stop the favoritism, so that we stop the entitlement, so that we stop judging.
Yeah, that's true. Well, Bianca, did you want to say something?
Yes, ate.
Yeah.
I grew up kasi with a lola who's she studied kasi in England. She's a well-known researcher. She's well-known in the medical field. So she had this sense of ako si doktora like this. So when it comes to household health and then they would break something at home, she would really make them feel so stupid, feel so ashamed, na-embarrassed in front of me.
Yeah.
So I really felt bad for them, but I thought, yun yung tama. Buti na lang, I witnessed a different side of a different way of treating household help from my in-laws. So their house help broke something, may nabasag, a glass broke. And then they said, Uy, Inday, okay ka lang ba? Sobrang iba yung reaction. Instead of getting angry, instead of making them feel stupid, their first reaction was, are you okay? So parang that gave me, oh, I think that's better. And so him and I have been merciful in that way in treating our house help. Kasi sino bang gustong manira ng stuff? We sure give them talks na pwede next time you be careful. Siyempre, we saved a lot of money to buy that item, but that's it. We don't make them feel or look stupid.
Yeah, praise God. Our generation today, we're kind of left. The generation of my parents, I think there was a very, parang very evident difference between rich and poor. So I grew up, my mom was also like that in the way she would talk to the maids, and she didn't know it was wrong. I think ganun talaga sila, right, Max? Yung parang the way they would talk to the maids and kung magalit sila sa maids. And I saw my mom noong time yun, kung magalit, magalit. And it was actually, I felt at the time, it was normal to treat maids that way. Up until siguro I got married and I realized, yeah, maids should be treated equal. So like, even let's say with the speedy or let's say the drivers now, it was like, why do you call them kuya? I mean, well, because I think that's a sign of respect. Kuya, nandiyan ka na. I mean, we need to intentionally, really, really treat people, especially those that are lower in ranking, economic wise, with more respect. You have no idea. You have no idea what that does to
I
that
think,
person.
yeah, we
You
grew
know?
up in a society that before our parents, di ba, parang they're very, you're right, that Sharon, that the rich and poor, di ba, you can see. But it's also up to us now. We have to treat them as family because at the end of the day, they take care of our families. I mean, if we don't take care of them, if we speak, di ba, how is that? Ako, my maid has been with me for 14 years. She has tried leaving, trying out somewhere, kunyari to get a bigger salary, but she keeps coming back to me because I think to her now, what's more important is that we treat her as family. Hindi na importante sa kanya yung taas ng sweldo. What's
You can
important?
be rich, but don't forget to have a heart also for the poor. Like you have to have a heart equally for the poor and also for the rich. But being rich is not the sin at all.
Yeah.
It's when you only have the heart for the rich or more for the rich than the poor, because diba, God is saying we are all his children and that we should love our neighbor as ourselves. So in that case, we should love them equally.
Yeah, no, take it from the illustration kanina that James said, remember? Two people come in, one is seated, one is not. He doesn't say the sinner is the rich. No, wala nga siyang sinabi tungkol sa mayaman eh. What he said was mali yung usher. Because the usher, the one that treated the rich and the poor, siya yung nagkamali. So being rich in itself, as we were saying kanina, is not bad. But it's the heart. How do you treat rich versus poor? How do you treat ugly versus beautiful? How do you treat successful versus failure? Okay? God is saying, I died for all of you. I didn't I didn't look at you impartially. In fact, for all of those who are rich here in this group, you got rich only by the help of God. Without the help of God, we would all be poor, right? But it's God who gives us the ability, the smarts to do anything and everything. So who are we to brag about things that God gave us, that were not really us to begin with? We were all made equal. Okay, so I think this is a wake up call. I think that was the point. This was the point of it all. Okay, I'm gonna take one more, Susanna, before so I can finish this off. Susanna,
Okay. Yeah, I understand what they're saying, but like you said from the beginning, what we discriminate or show favoritism on, whether it be achievement, whether it be wealth, beauty, there are good and bad people in both. So that's exactly what Lingo was saying. That it's just like you have to look like, what is your purpose of being with that person?
Yeah.
Are you being kind to that rich person because you're expecting, like you said, you're expecting favors, you're expecting to learn from them, you want to be in their circle. It's like the reason, like, why do you really want to do something? There's nothing wrong with having expensive watches. But is it because you want to impress other people with expensive watches, or because you really enjoy it? You really have a passion. It's not having. I mean, God wants us to enjoy life and to have life, But always remember that God looked. I mean, Jesus looked beyond that. That's what we're trying to do. I think is just not have favoritism or discrimination blind us. We have to look beyond that. It doesn't matter what they're wearing, where they're from. If you treat everyone the same, which I find it very hard in the Asian culture that we don't do this, and we're judging by what you're wearing. Like, you don't see multi-billionaires or millionaires like in the States wearing, like the way they do in the States, they're wearing hoodies. They don't have to wear brands. But here they judge by that mostly in general. But I just wanted to share, like, what Luke 14 that always spoke to me is that Jesus says, when you give a banquet, invite the poor, the crippled, and the lame, and the blind, and you will be blessed. Although they cannot repay you, you will be repaid at the resurrection of the righteous.
All right. Thank you, Susanna. Yeah. So, ladies, just watch the heart. Okay. So, again, just to make it clear, okay, God is not attacking the rich or the poor. He's just saying, watch your heart, that you look at them equally and you look at their value equally, and you don't get sucked up with favoritism and you just want to be with the rich to get what you can get. Okay. Because that in itself is a sin. That's what he's saying. All right.
What I see here in the book of James is that it's really is a test of our faith. How do we treat other people? How do we show love and care to them and exhibiting Christ likeness? Aside from the attributes that we know about God, being holy, he is righteous, he is compassionate. Being impartial is also an attribute of God. And we have to walk in that direction also.
Yeah, I just also just wanted to share I lost my husband. I was surrounded by friends, and and I could and there are testimonials to God's love for me, because my friends never left my side. Um my friends, instead of thinking that I'm a burden to them, and relatives, took it as an opportunity to help. For them, for them, it was helping me. It was a testimony, ibang effect sa akin. It was a testimony of God's love for me. I don't think I would have survived 10 years without without them, and I've only survived this 10 years without my husband by the grace of God. And
How we are as Christians, ladies, is a testimony of who God is in our lives, and we give it out to them. And as Christians, we are the legs, we are the eyes, we are the mouth, we are the heart of Jesus here on earth. And so, how we are to others is really a testimony of how God's love is for us. So let's move on. How then must we treat others? Number one, we need to accept them, okay? As Christian ladies, we cannot be spiritual snobs. We cannot go through life just being so selective of people that we want, because, that's not how Christ was. I was saying Jesus never did that. Jesus would always dine with the sinners. Jesus would dine with the tax collectors, and he was nothing like them, right? Jesus never sinned. He was never like a tax collector. So he never did that. He was never very selective of people. We cannot isolate ourselves, ladies, from people who are different from us, who think differently from us. That's not the Christian way to go about. Clearly, that's not biblical, because Jesus never taught us that. We need to infiltrate, meaning we need to go, infiltrate, and be accepting of all kinds of people without being contaminated by their sin. Because I know a lot of us, we don't want to be with so and so kind of people because we're so scared that we might sin like them. No, you need to be able to be strong enough to get into and meet and accept all kinds of people and not be contaminated by them. And Matthew 5:16 says, let your light shine before others, that they may what? See your good deeds and praise your Father in heaven. So how will your light shine before others if you're always what, with the same class of people or the same people you go with over and over again. You know, have you ever tried, ladies, lighting a candle in a bright room? If you have, then you'll see it has no wala siyang change. It has no effect. But you try lighting a candle in a very dark room, dun siya magkaka-effect, right? Why? Because light shines brightest in the dark. Okay, so if you don't go out in the dark and you don't venture into the dark and you're always just stuck in your same group of friends, the same safe friends that you want, and you don't want to mingle with people that are of different faith or of different lifestyle as you, then voila, your light doesn't shine on anything. Right? And God says, I want you as a Christian to shine bright in the world, in a dark world. So let's learn to be accepting of others, ladies. Be with them. Welcome people of different faith, of different beliefs, of different lifestyle. Love them, accept them. Do not discriminate, sabi ni James, based on their sin or in their life or on their lifestyle. Okay? When you accept a person in your life, it doesn't mean, and listen to this, okay, when you accept a person in your life, it doesn't mean that you approve of that person's lifestyle or sin. All right? Acceptance and approval are two different things. You can accept someone in your life, but it doesn't mean you approve of what that person is doing. And Romans 15 says, accept one another, what? Just as Christ accepted you. And if you only knew who you were when Christ accepted you, you were a sinner, you were filthy, you were full of sin, and yet he accepted you. Okay? So we need to have that spirit of Christ, that attitude of Christ. We shouldn't be critical of others. So acceptance is crucial, ladies, if we're to be like Christ. I like what Abraham Lincoln said: God must love the common people, he says, because he made so many of them. Right? And that's exactly how God is. God loves ordinary people, imperfect people, just like you and me. I mean, we're imperfect, right? I don't know with you, but I am imperfect, and he loves me. Okay, so if he, the God of everyone, loves the outcasts, the lowest people in our society, so to speak, who are we not to love them? As Christians, ladies, people don't want to hear us talking about love. They want to experience love through us. Kaya nga, di ba sabi natin, for many, we are their only Bibles. We are the walking Bible in their lives. So enough about preaching. You need to share it. You need to now live it out and allow people to experience the radical love of Jesus. And when I say radical love, I mean radical. What does radical mean? Loving our enemies, forgiving the unforgivable. Kind of love that Jesus has is something that is unexplainable, but that's the kind of love he gives us day in and day out, over and over again. We do the same thing to him over and over again, and he forgives us over and over again. I doubt if that sounds logical to us to do, but he tells us to do it. He tells us to do it. All right. Number two, appreciate them. Philippians 2, 3 to 4 says, don't be selfish. Don't try to impress others. Be humble, thinking of others as better than what? Yourselves. Don't look out only for your own interest, but take an interest in others too. So we need to know that each person has his or her own strengths and weaknesses, right? Not only must we accept the strengths, but we must also appreciate even their weaknesses, even their uniqueness, because everyone is unique. Okay. Some are just oddly unique. I mean, okay, I have to admit, some are EGRs. We have EGRs in our life. These are the people that are oddly unique, oddly difficult, extended grace required people. And yet, God is saying we need to accept them. Okay. In fact, okay, wake up call. You may be an EGR and you don't even know it. Baka mamaya ikaw rin, mahirap kang pakisamahan. And yet people are accepting of you. We need to remember that every person has a value, and that value is innate. Okay. The value is not in the outer. You need to find it in the inner, in the inner side of that person. And you know what, ladies, you won't find the value of a person by just always being critical of her bad attitude, of her bad ways. Wala kayong makikitang maganda kung lagi na lang ang nakikita nyo ay mali. You need to be able to open your eyes to see the value of each and every person. I put here, if you want to see the true value of a person, we need to intentionally what? Look past all their faults. Learn to accept them for who they are and learn to appreciate their uniqueness. Be humble, thinking of others as better than yourselves. All right, for many of us, the reason why we're so critical of others and we're so unappreciative of others isn't because they're difficult, but because we're too proud. Okay, we are too proud. We always think of ourselves very highly. We think we're better than others. And that's why everyone comes short. Everyone comes short of our standards. You know what? We need what to do ourselves a favor and have a slice or two of humble pie. That's it. That's the truth. Okay. And I was saying, oh my gosh, I need this so much. I need a slice of humble pie. All of us, remember, are unique. Okay, we are all made differently. And in case you don't know, we all have weaknesses and strengths. Okay, you have weaknesses. Don't think you're all strength. Hello, you have weaknesses too. Okay, so we need to be accepting. Do you know, ladies, that there are over 1,000 different flavors of ice cream? Why did I put this out? Because I was thinking, can you imagine if all of us were just vanillas? That life would be so boring, right? Praise God for 1,000 different flavors of ice cream. So, what I'm trying to point out here is we're all different. Okay. Some have irritating attitude. You know, some are just irritating. Some are just different from how you think. And we need to learn to appreciate that. So, when you appreciate someone, be a giver of life. It won't cost you enough. Tell that person you appreciate them. Which brings me to the third, affirm them. Thessalonians 5:11 says, encourage one another and build each other up. So be a breath of encouragement to those around you. When people make mistakes, don't criticize too easily. Don't be the first ones to condemn them, to make them, to crucify them. Don't be too hard on people. Learn to sympathize. For many of us, we walk around like Roman soldiers, really, with hammers and nails. Learn to see the best in people. When people mess up, just take it as that they've messed up. Okay, they've messed up, instead of reminding them of what they've done wrong, because I'm sure they know already what they've done wrong. So instead of reminding them constantly, ikaw kasi ginawa mo yan eh. Learn, ladies, to encourage them, learn to help them walk up again. Yeah, learn to pick them up and to give them affirmation. You have no idea, okay, what it does when you know, kumbaga, baksak na baksak ka and people just want to encourage you instead of persecute you. It's a big lift. We need to be a haven, ladies, for people to go to. And that is my desire for myself. That when you look at me, Sharon, I am a sanctuary for you to go to, because you know I will not judge you. I will not condemn you. I will sincerely love you. That is my desire. Now, I'm not saying I'm like that. I still have to build that character in me. But we must be, as Christians, we must be like that. I want to look at Annabelle and say, okay, I can tell Annabelle anything because I know she will never judge me. Or I can tell Maru everything because I know she will never condemn me. That must be us as Christians. People must look at us that way. And I have people in my life that way. Okay? Let's end it this way. Romans 5:8. But God showed his great love for us by sending Christ to die for us while we were sinners. So why did I end it this way? Ladies, while we were still sinners, Jesus died for us. Take that in. Take that in, so you understand what this whole devotion is all about. Jesus didn't say, I'll only die for you when you're perfect. I'll only die for you when you're holy. There were no qualifications for being saved. Jesus died for all of us. No favoritism whatsoever, for criminals, outcasts, for rich, for poor, for sexy, for voluptuous. He died for us all. Okay, and so knowing that, there is no impartiality, no favoritism, he wants us to carry that same attitude when we love others and we relate to others in our lives. All right. So that ends the devotion for today. Any questions or insights?